Well, that's the key to being right, which is interesting because most really smart people, they typically end up talking about all the things they don't know about.
That's because that's the area that gets you more knowledge, so you'll know more.
Where the dumb people are, they think they know everything and they're too dumb to know that they're dumb, actually.
Yep, yep. I've I think twice this week I referred to Dunning-Kruger. So,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is where we discuss current events, personal growth, and any other random topic that crosses our minds. Our goal is to have a meaningful discussion that help us to see the topics we discuss more clearly. Our hope is we can help you expand your self-awareness, develop your critical thinking, and learn to be less reactive to the world around you. And most importantly, remember, be curious. If you like what you hear, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. Hello, Chris. Happy Saturday. This is podcast number 53.
5-3. Yes.
53.
Happy Saturday to you. How's the weather where you are?
It was great yesterday. Almost 70 degrees. I think it's going to be a little colder and then starting to get really cold the next day.
We've been in the 70s and even the 80s here. It's like 20 degrees warmer than normal.
That's crazy. Global warming, man, I'm telling you.
Global warming, we're all going to die. AI is not going to kill us. The planet will.
Probably so, because, especially after all the extra power we have to fund
we're
for the AI,
going to have to tap geothermal energy and drill a hole to get all the heat out of the crust, and then we're going to put a crack in that's too big, and it's going to split the earth, and we're all going to die. So.
Yeah, well, here's the good news. We're all going to die anyways, so...
That's the good news.
Yeah.
Good news, everyone. We're all going to die, so nothing matters.
Yeah, nothing matters. Hey, so speaking of that, I had something that I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember what it was right now, so maybe you could bring up like a topic.
Oh, you're going to put the burden on me, huh? Well, I got an electric scooter.
Oh, cool.
Basically, the Orange County office for my company is like 2 miles from my house.
Yeah.
And so I got an electric scooter thinking that, it was on sale on Black Friday. I thought I'd get it. And that thing is squirrely as hell to ride because it's only got like 9-inch wheels on it. So I'm sitting there, like, woo! So I'm riding along. I'm like, it's supposed to go 19 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And honestly, you get above about 11, 12 on that thing, and it just feels like you're just going to fall down. So
it's inherently unstable. Yeah, I'm working for a friend of mine. He's making an electric scooter too. In fact, I'm working on 3D printing thing. This is like
wait, we had him on the show, right?
Yeah, Brad. Yeah, exactly. You may want to check with him. Like this is a little remote control motor controller. So what I'm doing is I'm going into Fusion 360 and I'm designing where it can fit onto the like central joystick. I'm printing with TPU and like magnets.
Oh, that's right. He uses a joystick. Not his steering is a joystick. That's right.
Yeah, but one of my challenges with this is and we should talk about this as a fundamental kind of way of thinking is how to think through and actually get down to like first principles thinking. And maybe this is not first principles thinking, but it's sort of the bottleneck that everything else hinges on, which everything I want to do, well, not everything. I got to be careful. I tend to go to the extreme with black and white thinking, and I always get on you about that, but I probably do it worse than you do actually. So I'm going to try to maybe, I don't know that I can promise anything, try to be a little bit nicer to you. Maybe. I don't know. That's really hard for me, Chris.
There's some self-awareness going on there, Scott.
Yeah, I guess so. So anyways.
No, but I think you made a point there. I think quite often when you're talking first principles thinking, you really want to question your constraints, right? Because you've got constraints in whatever you're building. And so I feel like when you're talking about it, it's like the first principles are you go back to your constraints and you verify those are actually constraints.
Well, in that case, this wasn't what I was talking about. So I use first principles thinking just to sound really important, and most people don't know what you're talking about, so you can say it with a confidence. They're like, "Oh, you're really smart, probably."
Well, they're
Um,
first principles, so obviously you know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
exactly.
That's your
But
appeal to authority there. You know, you're using I'm the authority. I'm talking first principles.
yeah, yeah, and if you don't like it, go argue with Musk, right? Whatever. So, what have you done lately? Anyways, um, that wasn't what I was going to go down. That I was going to go down as like, what are my foundational skills that thing hinge on? And it's like you kind of dig down. You're like, oh, that thing requires that, and that requires that, and that requires that. And one of the reasons I'm struggling with all these other things is because I haven't developed any sort of competency in this core skill. Because it seems like I don't want to say everything, but many things not reason up, but require that skill. And one of those skills for me is like using Fusion 360 to model stuff. It's hard to 3D print an original design if you can't build a model for it. I mean, in fact, it's impossible. And
Well, so one of the things when I start watching a YouTube video where someone explains to you how easy it is to do something, and
yeah,
I'm like, okay, well, you know how to do that thing, and then you know how to do that thing, and then it's like step one, do X. Like, okay, I get the theory behind it.
yeah,
What is the
right.
actual activity involved? Am I competent in it? Do I have the ability to do that? And so you got to build all those abilities up too.
Yeah, you got to build the abilities. And that, so I wrote down like all the fundamental skills that I would need to develop. And that was like a core one. That was like, what do they call it? The critical path in project management. That was always the one that came up. And I don't want to do it because it's going to take a lot of time and it's hard.
I mean, you could always outsource parts of it, right?
No, no, because I want to be able to do that actually. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay. So I understand the feeling of wanting to do it yourself,
yeah.
but if your end goal is the end product and it's going to slow you down to do it yourself, isn't it worth considering, at least at this point, outsourcing it until you can take the time to do it yourself?
No, not in this
Okay.
case because I want to do it myself. I hear what you're saying. I understand it, but
Well,
um,
if your goal is to produce it, it seems like then you need to open up that possibility. Sorry, produce it in a particular amount of time.
well, my goal is actually to learn how to produce it. Is my actual goal.
Okay, so you have a different goal then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not really doing it for money, and I don't really have any particular time thing. It just seems like this is always the bottleneck that comes up. So I'm just going to force myself to get on a schedule to
So,
spend an
so this is
hour.
this is one thing where I think you and I, because I'm siding with you on this in the way I think, but I think this is where the Musks of the world are different in the fact that his end goal is to produce it, and he'll make the decision whether he likes it or not to move towards that goal.
Yeah, yeah. I think in his case, is it required to get my outcome, and then
Yeah, and so in this case, like if you say I need these 10 skills, but I only have five of them, I want to learn them all, but I need to get this done. Let's go
yeah,
find
right.
someone with those five skills, and then we'll worry
Oh,
about.
absolutely. If this is a
Yeah,
business thing, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah. But I want to have this capability because I believe that, like over the next 10 years, the intersection of robotics and AI is going to be an important place to play, like a critical space to play in. So that's why being able to design something is an important skill, and it fits with my fundamental two things that I was put on this planet to do, and that is to build and to teach those two things. So if I want to build stuff, which I consider as one of my critical fundamental objectives of why I'm put on this planet, then I got to design in order to build. So that's why I'm like, okay, I just got to go learn this. But that opens up a whole can of worms because most of the time when I'm looking, and then if you want to build stuff, like I'm working on building a robot arm right now, you have to learn a basic amount of physics, right? Which is kind of cool because that ties into my physics kind of fundamental first principle thing. So I'm starting to understand, a little bit more about physics through the application of it. But then I'm also, you got to build stuff with materials So then that brings up material science and material properties, and how strong is it, and how thin is it, and what sort of forces act on it, and how stable do I want to be, and how reproducible do I want it to be. And then when I size the motors, like how much power do I need, because how far out do I want to hold, and how much weight do I want to hold. And then you start getting into inertia, and how do you stop it and start it, and just everything starts. It seems like it all just revolves back into, look, I've got to have a relatively decent understanding of all the areas in this little circle that I want to operate in.
Yeah, I guess the question you would ask, I would ask, is how deep do you need to go in each of those, right? To what level of
Yeah.
detail do you need to understand the atomic structure of the elements to be able to build your robot?
No, right now, just enough to make it work. That's all I'm trying to get to. Just enough.
Because I think the feeling I get when I hear you talk about studying your physics and going down deep is that you get pulled into the topic probably deeper than you really need.
I think so. And that's that. I gotta can go just deep enough to solve whatever problem I have. Yeah. So there you go. That's what I'm working on, Chris. Trying to figure that out. Oh, and then I got pulled in last night. Certain material properties. Oh, and we should actually talk about this, because these shorts, I'm starting to. I've been spending a lot of time making shorts. I'm going to
Hmm.
try to drive this to 1 million views by the end of the year, and I don't know that I'm able to get there. But one thing that I'm noticing is what topics people are interested in and what they're not interested in. And I'm making sure that I look at who our audience is, who watches it, which is predominantly men. And
YouTube's like predominantly men, like 70% men. So
yeah, and I think our audience is like 90% men or something. And then I look at each headline, and I look at trying to correlate multiple variables, which is time of the post and what the title of the post is. And actually, if I was really smart, I'd run all this data into Grok and have it, optimize, like what are the most optimized topics, and then we'd make sure that we talk about, those during the show. But definitely things when it talks about physics and natural science and how things work, that is an interest of our audience, like no doubt. And that's also appears to be where we get many of our comments, basically describing how stupid both of us are and that we don't know what we're talking about.
this is how deep we are in physics, and when you get someone who's this deep into it, they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
But actually, from a marketing standpoint, that's perfect, actually, because that will get people to engage, right? Like, look at these
That's
idiots.
true. That's true. So are you using what comes out of Opus Clip and then figuring out how to wrap it, or are you actually giving Opus Clip specific directions to create those shorts?
No, I don't give it any directions. I just like let it go, but it
Okay.
creates based on what we talk about. So I
No, no.
ultimately control the
Yeah.
input.
Well, no, the thing I was thinking of was like, I know that one of the things you can do when you're asking it to make the clips is give it specifics. Say, look
Mm,
for this, look for that, right?
hmm.
So if you used Grok to actually come up with some guidance on it, I wonder if you could. So let's say you find the three topics that get the most hits, right? Say it's
Yeah, right.
physics and physics, Musk, and whatever else, right?
Yeah,
All right. Oh, let me pull my mic out. Does that help?
yeah,
Um, and what we could do then is, you could tell it, all right, I need you to make clips, and here are the three topics to look for. And I
yeah.
wonder if you would get a better quality of short out of that.
There is no doubt. Right now, that's just more variables than I'm trying to control for. I'm just sort of brute forcing and just noticing there's you know, a couple of things that I should pay attention to, but I haven't got into any sort of
I
deep
wonder.
analysis yet.
I wonder, does Opus Clip have an API that you could set up an MCP server, so then you could actually tell Grok, or Grok doesn't allow MCP servers, so Chat or Claude, and say, hey, go look at this, look at episode 53, look at all the clips we've got. I want you to craft all the content for it based upon these examples of really good ones.
Yeah, and we should probably start doing that maybe next year at some point. But yeah, I'm sure we should start using AI to accelerate this whole thing, and as well as have it give us strategies compared to other well-performing sites. But right now, it's because I go through and I review every transcript, and then I ask it for how to improve things, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and we just tend to babble and just meander around way too much. It's like you should edit more, but
Well,
I don't really want to edit because
we should also have an agenda. I mean, I know we like to just rant on, but at the end of the day, if we had a topic that we stayed around more clearly, we'd probably have better content around it.
Yeah, clearly, and we should consider doing that. Right now, my goal is I just want to drive to 1 million views because it just seems that's sort of a cool milestone to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, speaking of that, I talked to Kevin yesterday, and he definitely wants to come on the podcast, so we need to schedule a time with him to come on.
Yeah, no, I talked to him, oh gosh, it was a couple months ago, and he was interested. And honestly, that guy's got so much energy and so much positivity. It's almost tiring how much positivity he has.
Yeah, it's like, can't you just be a little more negative, please?
Oh man. Well, one of the YouTube guys that I watch a lot, he gets dinged by his audience all the time for being negative and looking at the bads. And I listen to him and no, he's just being real.
Yeah.
And I realized that a lot of what people hear today is they hear reality, but the way they interpret it is negativeness.
Well, and that makes sense because, when you watch the news, no matter what news you watch, it's always blood and gore, the worst possible scenario, the old lady getting hit, people getting killed.
I was just thinking back to projects that I've worked on, right? Yeah. When everyone's blinding themselves with their optimism, and I'm the guy going, hey, I get it. We need to get this done. We need to work on this, but let's just, let's consider the fact that we have limited money, we have limited time, we blah 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 blah, and to me that's just reality. I'm not trying to shut down the work. I'm just saying these are the hurdles you're going to have to do.
Yeah, right.
And what you end up getting branded as the negative person who's not a team player. And I'm like, no, none of that was that. All of that was designed for us to be able to have a better chance of completing the task.
Yeah, here's the thing though. I think you're misreading the room. Because definitely in corporate America, being efficient is not typically what they optimize for. They're optimizing for other things.
No, they want efficiency, but they're not. But they don't realize but they don't really want efficiency.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like
they want the outcome of efficiency. They don't want the inputs of efficiency.
Yeah, they want the stock price to go up. They want to look good. I mean, so they want to feel good about themselves that they contributed. I mean, so I think it's. If you're going to gain power, you got to figure out what people really want.
But if you want to solve problems, you got to face reality. And so this is the problem I always had. It's like my goal was to solve the problem. It was not to look good solving the problem.
Yeah. Then you should probably go work for companies that emphasize that. Go work for Musk. He's all about just solve the freaking problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that this is the distinction I have is. People do not want to hear reality because in their mind, it's too negative.
I think, that is one. I think there's probably a bunch of axioms around that. There's no doubt that's one of them. Yeah.
So depending on what your goal is, if your goal is to solve a problem, you got to face reality. If your goal is to gain power, if your goal is to gain influence or to gain stature or something else, then you need to appeal to that part of human nature that makes people feel good.
Yeah.
And that's going to be saying the platitudes or, being overly positive and gung-ho on things that really,
Yeah, with the right mix of reality. It was interesting, Toastmasters, so I ordered that book. I don't know if you caught that recommendation.
I wrote it down as well. I thought that was an interesting thing.
Yeah, I ordered it. And I know Jamar does that all the time. I can't remember exactly.
What was it called? The Art of Acknowledgment.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because I figured I wasn't going to do it later. So typically on stuff like that, either if I do it, I got to do it right then or it's just not going to happen at all. So because I'm not going to remember to like go do it and order it later.
I like the idea of ordering the topic of the book, but I didn't like the cover.
Okay, there you go. Well, that's right. Which is so funny because that's a key point of writing a book. Nobody's going to read it. It's just the cover is 95% of it. Just get a good cover.
Just a picture. I assume it's the author's face is all it is, and I'm like, no. I will probably end up getting the book for the content of it, but it just
it's pure ego.
I was turned off by that. That's why you put your picture on the back, not on the front.
I know, it's just pure ego. I know that's what authors do. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But right, she feels good about herself. I'm a best-selling author or whatever. But who knows? Regardless
but
of
she
that,
didn't have many ratings. That was the other thing, is that book did not have many ratings as well. So
I know. I'm going to read it though. Who knows? Maybe it'll be good.
No, the topic sounded great. Right. The idea of being able to acknowledge people and the difference between acknowledgement and gratefulness and thankfulness. I think that's an interesting idea right there. Right?
Yeah.
Like because it's very powerful for someone just to tell them you understand and hear them, which is I think part of the whole argument of steelmanning an argument with someone is to be able to say, I understand, I hear, I acknowledge what you're thinking. I'm not trying to prove you wrong. I'm not trying to say that you're an idiot. I'm here. Look, I understand exactly what your mindset is, what your opinion is. Now let me explain to you mine so you can understand mine.
Yeah.
And it's to build a mutual respect at that point. And it's not about saying I agree with you. That's not what I'm saying when I'm steelmanning you.
Yeah.
I'm saying I understand that thought.
Yeah.
Right. And if you really like that idea, let's agree to disagree. Most of the time I hear people say that, it's because they're closed-minded and idiotic. Yeah. Really, what I want you to say is, okay, I hear everything you say. I acknowledge it. It has value. I get it. But fundamentally, I can't agree with that. And so at that point, you end up to agree to disagree.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the Stephen Covey, right? Is that the guy? One of his 7 habits. Seek first.
Wait. Okay, this is about the 50th time we've mentioned this one, but go ahead, say it again.
Yeah. Seek first well, maybe we need to keep saying it over and over again. Seek first, understand, and then be understood, right? Mm-hmm. This is the key to everything. This is the key to marketing. You enter into their world because you can't influence from your perspective.
So is that a seek first to understand? Is that something that you can train yourself to do, or do you need to build something else to be able to do that?
No,
I like to understand.
That's perfect.
But I want to understand. I inherently want to understand everything. When I'm faced with a situation where I cannot logic my way into figuring out at least, and it doesn't have to be right. It just has to be, I get how the world works, and I can be wrong about how the world works. But okay, boom, everything fits into this model. My problem is, do other people think that way? What would drive them to want to understand? Because I think you have to want to understand.
Yeah, you have to want to understand. But here's the thing, though. See, the steelmanning, that is so good because most people tell you just what to do, but they don't tell you how to do it. Remember, like Clement was talking about yesterday. So here's a technique. First of all, if I was teaching you, Chris, I'd say, first of all, you got to understand the other person's perspective. Now, how do you do that? Steelman their argument. Build a case, and in your mind, as stupid as you think it is, build a case for it. Or at least try to understand.
And I did that. I had to do that this week. So I was meeting with a client, and he's actually new to the client company. So he has a role, and so he reached, and I offered to him, anytime you want to talk about anything, just let me know, because I'm here. I want to be able to add value and help you get your work done. So he set up a call and we talked, and over the last couple of weeks, he keeps hammering us on questions about are you sure that the amount of hours you're putting into this makes sense? Can you actually deliver this in the amount of hours you're saying? Because it seems so low. It seems like you guys are biting off more than you can chew and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, we're saying we can do this work, right? It's not on you. It's on us to get the work done.
Yeah.
And then after talking to him, I realized his boss is at some point going to ask him to do the same work we're doing.
Okay, gotcha.
And so he's worried that if he can't understand how we're delivering, there's no way he's ever going to be able to deliver it.
Yeah, right.
And so as soon as I understood that, I'm like, oh, that's where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, this is his understanding of the world. This much output takes this much effort.
Yeah, right.
And it seems like the amount of effort we're doing is less than he expects.
Yeah, right.
To get the output. Yeah. And he figures his boss is going to ask him to replicate what we do.
Very likely, yeah. Did you confirm
and
that?
So because of that, He's like he's in a tough spot because he can't make the connection between the output and the input that we're delivering based, So, yeah, and I said, okay, well, I'll we'll figure out how to explain it because we can't give you all our secret sauce, but we can at least explain to you some of the tools we use. And then you can figure out, is that something you can build within your organization, or is that something you just want to continue to outsource?
Yeah.
But the idea was, I said, okay, this is what I'm hearing. And I put my interpretation on it, actually, right?
Yeah,
he didn't put his agenda on it or his feelings on it, but I went ahead and repeated it back to him saying, so you're getting pressured by your boss to bring some of this work in-house.
Yeah.
And you don't understand how it's delivered the way it's delivered, so you're worried that you're not going to be able to build the skills and capabilities to do it.
Yeah, right.
And basically, once I stated that, the conversation got really easy because then we could go to the next piece.
Yeah. That in sales, that technique that you just did, it's called the hidden objective, and that's the one that always kills it. So your job as a salesman is to extract the real objective out. And in the meantime, most people don't want to say that. So they're always coming up with, I need to think about it. I need to check with my wife. I need to check with my boss. It's always some version of that.
Well, this is where having a conversation one-on-one with someone is so much better.
Yeah.
Because if that was a group discussion, and I were to lay out that idea, he might not feel comfortable exposing that vulnerability in his own abilities to others.
Yeah.
But by me being able to state it back to him without any judgment and just kind of like, so this is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It helped him to understand that, I'm not being critical here. You have your opinion is your opinion, your idea, your goal. Your goal is to get rid of us as your vendor, right? Yeah. That's fine. I'm not offended by that. Quite honestly, many companies, their goal is to get rid of their vendors. They want to bring it in house at some point. That's fine.
Right. That's fine. Yeah. And you're okay with that? I mean, it depends on like how you want to sell. You might say, okay, that's fine. Then why don't you work with us? Let's do a year contract, and then we'll
train your staff, show them how to do this.
Do a transition plan so you can do this, right? But you got to be realistic in the fact that, look, we have people that are specialized that all they do is this one particular skill. So there's no way you're going to be able to do it in the same amount of time we can do it. There's no way, right?
When you've got 38,000 people in your company, somebody knows how to do it. And if I have the ability to grab that person and ask them the one question, it's that old story about the guy who comes in and turns one screw and charges $10,000.
Yeah.
Right? He comes into the factory that's broken. He goes over, turns one screw, and then the factory's fixed.
Yeah.
And he charges $10,000, and they say, wait, $10,000 to fix a screw? Yeah. And he goes, $1 to turn the screw, $9,999 to know which screw to turn.
I know. Yeah. That's exactly right. And see, that's interesting because if you arm him with that, now he can go back to his boss and say, hey, boss, look, I get that you want to bring in house. I do too.
He's not the one I need to convince. He's the one I need to help.
Yeah, right.
And his boss is the one he needs to convince.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. It's interesting. But he is probably viewing in the fact that, if I can't bring it in house, now my boss is going to look down on me. I'm going to lose my power. I'm going to lose a position. So
also, this is a guy who's new to his organization, so he's still trying to feel things out and understand. And this is the way it is. I mean, even in my company, I've been here 2.5 months now.
Yeah.
And someone says, I need you to work on this. And I'm like, no idea what the hell that is, but sure. So yesterday I was thrown a proposal I had to put together, right? And I'm like, oh, well, all right, here's what I think. And then I did have to, reach out to some people who've been there longer and said, hey, am I off base? Am I crazy in my numbers here? And they said, no, that's fine. I said, okay. Right. But the point is, until I'm comfortable in this environment, I'm always going to feel like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here, right?
Yeah.
Even when I answered your question in Toastmasters yesterday, I'm like, there was an email that went out yesterday that says, hey, you know what? There's some work that needs to get done, and we need help over the holidays.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I want to do this or not? And I'm still trying to figure out if it's a fit. But the idea was, it was uncomfortable to say, I'm going to give up some of my holiday time. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. There's like 4 days a week of travel involved, which as you get older, you don't want to travel as much. So.
Yeah, especially over the holidays. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like I need to look at it and go, is this worth it? Is this something that I'm going to get? Is what I'm going to get out of it worth the discomfort of going through it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that makes sense.
I liked your table topics yesterday.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, yeah. I like you said, I'm not going to follow the rules, but then you did still anyway. So.
Well, I kind of like just doing it my way. That's just sort of probably a character flaw that I
if someone says you have to do it this way, you want to do it a different way.
Yeah, because I'm like, why? Why do we have to do it that way? I mean, I'll do it that way if there's a good reason for it, but I think the reason you say that is just because that's the way it's always been done before.
Mm-hmm. No, I thought the questions were good. I thought I liked your. I don't know why you chose dog breath, and I'm the only one who used dog breath as my word of the day. Yeah. Everyone else went, "Holy moly, is easy to do." Holy moly, I can say that, everywhere. But dog breath. How do you figure dog breath into your answer? So
I don't know. I just made that up. It seems like people somewhat enjoyed it, but I played it in a different way. But I did all the things that people always get busted on. Like I only called the people with the lesser roles. I didn't call on the speakers. I mean, so that was engaged into,
well, last week I had to step in because the woman who was going to do table topics was not available. So I went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And I remember I said, and we had very few people that day. So I said, I don't care what your role is. There's a good chance you're getting called on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I called it out in the beginning, right? Because
yeah. No, that's good. And then also I want everybody to have their function first and then their name. So then it's easy to scan, under their name.
You realize when we first went on Zoom, I was manually updating those for everyone. I put in their roles.
Oh, that's crazy, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once I was no longer an officer, I said, screw that. I'm not going to put in the time for that.
No,
so now it's up to you guys. You guys do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, do it. And then call them, hey, fix that or whatever like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so did you figure out what you want to talk about?
Let me think. No, one more random topic. Since I'm looking at material properties on these different materials, I was getting all these terms and I somewhat understand them. But one thing I also going down, I want to talk about this is like how to figure out what are the core skills that you need, like figuring that out quickly. So one thing I figured it out is like there's megapascals. It's like the strength of a material, like the tensile strength, how much you can pull it before it breaks. And then it started coming up into newtons. And it comes out newton meters and newtons, and then weight and mass and all these interconnected topics. And I didn't understand the words. So I spent enough time trying to understand the words and what they mean and how they relate from our system, the imperial system, to the metric system, and understanding the difference between weight and mass and why it's important. And I watched this really good YouTube video that was really cool that kind of put it all together. And so it's so cool because now I understand, F equals ma, which is a basic physics equation, force equals mass times acceleration. Mm-hmm. But in some case, what I assumed incorrectly is like my version or my definition of accelerations means that not just something is pulling on you, but your speed is continuing to increase, like you're accelerating. But that's not the case actually. So we're accelerating right now. We have gravity pulling on us, and even though we're not moving, it's still pulling on us because we got an other force countering, exactly gravity pushing back at exactly the same thing. Yeah,
I'm sorry. Where was the aha in that?
The aha is just because you use the term acceleration as a force
doesn't mean movement.
Doesn't mean you're moving, and doesn't mean you're continuing to move faster. Actually,
acceleration does not mean that you're actually moving.
Yeah,
or moving relative to whatever. I mean, we're standing on the earth. The earth's moving. I get that, but I'm not accelerating into. I'm accelerating into the ground, which doesn't mean I'm moving into the ground.
Yeah, and the ground is pushing back at exactly the thing. So you're in this static, particular. If you, this is the problem when you fall. Because you're accelerating and your speed is going up, but your speed only goes up so much because as I believe
critical velocity.
Yeah, you hit a critical because as your speed increases, The wind
Critical velocity
resistance
doesn't
increases. Yeah, I think they call it critical velocity, which is everything balances, right?
Yeah, hope I'm using the right word term. No, because escape
It doesn't
velocity.
sound
So I'm
exactly
getting
right.
confused with escape velocity in my head. Critical velocity is where the resistance of the atmosphere is high enough that you can't speed up anymore.
Yeah, because the air resistance, and I believe it goes up as a square. So if you double your speed, your air resistance doesn't double it. Like it goes up by a factor of 4. So, like if you jump out of a plane, you're going to go about 120 miles an hour. Now, if you like go belly down and spread your arms out, you go a little slower. If you go into head dive, you go a little faster. But it's about 120 miles an hour. So it's interesting. So I started putting all these different things together. I'm like, oh, I understand the relationships. But it's so fascinating because like Grok kept correcting me because I'm like, oh, you mean how much it weighs? And it's like, no. It's not weight. This is force. It's how much you're pushing against something. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between weight and force? And it's like, well, then it brought out F equals ma, right?
Well,
F equals the mass times the acceleration.
It's not. So mass is always what you're calculating off of, right? Weight is
Depending
subjective.
on how much gravity is pulling down.
Weight is subjective based on where you're on the gravity, wherever you're standing, right? The weight on the moon is different than the weight on the Earth, right? But the mass is the same.
Yeah, mass is the same.
You have the same mass on Earth as you do on the moon, but you weigh different amounts.
Yeah, because the moon is about 1/6 the gravity or something. But AKA, that's the formula. Now I kind of understand that. It's F equals ma, right? And so the force is equal to the mass times the acceleration.
Yeah. But that's why gravity is given to you as meters per second squared.
Yeah, 9.8 meters
because
per second
it's an
squared,
acceleration. It's not meters per second, which is speed. It's meters per second squared, which is an acceleration, right? So yeah, that's.
And another thing I learned, which is so interesting, because gravity is basically different, slightly different, depending on where you are on the planet, actually. But in order to solve that, what they've done is they just use that universal gravity equation, which they figure that's the average gravity everywhere on the Earth. So that's what we use. So on Earth, pretty much most places, mass equals weight. That's why it gets confusing. Because it's the same thing here on Earth.
Yeah, but if you go up to the top of Everest, you're further away from the center of mass, so technically you're going to have a fluctuation in the amount of gravity you've got, right?
It's going to be pulling on you a little bit less because I think gravity waves, I think what is it, like the square of the distance or whatever, so it changes the closer you get to the center of the Earth.
Yes.
So it's interesting. But those little nuances, we just average.
But I also wonder, once you get into the Earth, I'm wondering, as some of the mass gets beyond you, right? As you move to the middle, and some of the mass gets beyond you, I wonder how that impacts gravity.
You'll be weightless at that point because everything will be pulling on you evenly.
So once you're in the middle of the Earth, you're weightless.
Yeah. Like for instance,
but if you're using a calculation of the point of gravity.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, it's interesting. Once you're inside the thing that you're calculating as a point, I think then the rules kind of change a little bit too.
Well, no, it's the same thing. You're still getting pulled upon, right? It's just that everything's pulling on you pretty much equally.
Yeah, but if you're in orbit and you're being pulled towards the Earth, you can use the center of the Earth as your calculation, right?
Yeah,
right,
the average. Exactly.
If you're actually within the Earth, then I think the numbers have to change.
Well, no, you're still getting pulled. So, like let's say, instance, you're
still getting pulled. You're still getting pulled, yes.
But you're getting pulled evenly from everywhere.
In which case, you can't use the same point calculation, right? That's what I'm saying.
Hey, let me think about that. Well, see, the point calculation, there's nothing like actually real about that. That's just
it's a simplification, right?
It's the average of all the gravity.
Here's the Earth.
Yeah.
I'm for ease of calculation, I'm going to take the exact middle of it and then use the average of gravity. Now you're over here, you're getting pulled towards the Earth.
Yeah.
Once you're pulled inside the Earth's circle, right?
Yes, right.
Then that point doesn't work the same way anymore because now you're being pulled backwards by part of the Earth as well, right? Because you're actually inside the Earth.
Yeah, you're going to be weightless at that point because you're going to be pulled evenly from everything else. So, like, for instance, like if you were to drill a hole through the center of the earth all the way through and took out all the air, took out any forces, you would start falling, accelerating. And then when you got to the center, then you'd start decelerating until you'd
But
like,
well, so but the force on you would actually decrease as you got to the center, right?
yes,
So
right,
when you're
right.
outside the Earth, you got the average force that you were using as our calculation. Once
Yeah.
you enter the actual physical Earth, then you're going to begin to slow down because there's some of the mass is now beyond you.
Yes, right.
Right? That's what I'm getting at.
No, you wouldn't slow down because that's why I said there's
You
no
wouldn't slow
air.
down. The force of gravity, which is acceleration, would be less.
Yeah, you'd accelerate slower, but you'd still be speeding up,
Yes.
actually.
And until you got to the center point, at which point then you would have then the average of gravity would be pulling you the other direction, and
Yeah.
so then you'd begin the pendulum back and forth.
Yeah, at which point your speed would be fastest at the center. And then you'd
It'd
start to
oscillate.
slow down until you popped out the other side. You'd be just like, you could just step off, actually.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking. Yeah, the idea of simplifying gravity down to a single point works as long as you're far enough away from the object that you can do that.
Yeah, that's what the bigger the object is, typically the less gravity affects you. That's why black holes are so dangerous, because they're so small. So there's so much shear, there's so much delta difference between moving here and, moving there. Like, let's say, like a black hole is technically a single point.
Okay, you need to. I think I understand what you're saying in that last sentence, but I think you made some jumps there. I think. Go ahead and
Okay,
explain
so
that in
let's
more
say
detail.
let's say a black hole, right? It's the singularity.
Yep.
And that is basically a single point, very small, like the head of a pin, with not infinite density, but a lot of density. So what happens is,
What is density?
density is
I think you mean mass.
no, I mean density.
Density is how dense the mass is. That's how much space it takes up. But you're
density
talking about a
is
huge amount of mass,
mass to volume. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're talking about a huge amount of mass that is so dense that it fits into a pinpoint, like you said.
Yeah. Well, density it describes the relationship between the amount of mass and size of that mass.
But is the density the issue, or is the mass the issue?
The density in this case is the issue, because
So if I have this much mass, down incredibly dense to like a single point,
Yeah.
that would be the same thing. Basically, it would be a black hole with this much mass.
well, not with this much mass. It would have a ton of mass, but in a very
so
very dense.
the mass is the thing affecting your calculation. The fact that it's dense down to a single point is where it has the effects you're talking about. See, what I'm getting at here is I don't think it's just density. It's dense. It's that much mass in that little space that's affecting your calculation.
Yeah, no, right. It's very, very dense, actually. More dense than
Yeah.
anything we had ever experienced on the Earth or whatever. So
I get that. What I'm saying is density by itself is not going to affect your calculation. It's the mass that's in that within that density.
Well,
That is that dense.
it's how dense it is. That defines how much mass there is. So density is
What?
equal
Wait,
to
wait,
the
wait. Clarify that, because I think you misstated that.
Okay,
The
so
density defines how much mass there is.
yeah, no, the density is a relationship. It's a ratio between the mass to the size of an object.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's how. So if we consider, I'm going to go back to Earth. Like if somebody weighs 100 pounds and you've got it in the tip of a pen, like a needle, that's a very dense object, as opposed to like a balloon that's not very dense because it's pretty big, but it doesn't weigh
Yes.
very much.
So again, if you take this, I'm going to go back to the phone. This
Yeah.
phone, which takes up this much space, and we were to crush it somehow down into something very small, it would be more dense. It would be the same amount of mass in a smaller amount of space.
Yeah.
Therefore, it would be more dense.
More
right?
dense, right,
And
exactly.
a black hole is just a very small point space that has a huge amount of mass condensed into it.
which means it's very dense, actually.
Okay. So yeah, but the thing is, you keep saying the density is what makes a black hole, and I'm like, I think density is not what makes. That's how we are defining a black hole: is a huge amount of mass in a very small amount of space, which therefore means it's dense.
Yeah, but when I say density, you say how dense is it, right? So in like the periodic table, you can look at different materials like aluminum, paper, wood, mercury, and you can look at the density. Basically equals.
Yeah. So are you saying lead is more dangerous than air?
Yeah, lead's
Not more dangerous. You were implying that the black hole is different because of the shearing force factors that it has.
Yeah, because it's so dense. It's more dense than anything we'll ever find anywhere we'll get hold of. But here's the point: it's incredibly dense, right? And it has a lot of mass. And so what that means is like technically your head on Earth is being pulled slightly less than your feet, right? Because your head's further away from the center of the Earth than your feet are. Now, it's not a problem because the density of the Earth is not very dense compared to a black hole. But in case of a black hole, if you get close to it, the difference in distance, like your feet are going to be pulled way stronger than your head, which means you're going to get stretched. And that's why it's so dangerous.
So if I'm standing on a black hole,
yeah,
you're saying that the difference in forces on my feet versus my head are going to be much greater than if I'm standing on a planet.
Yes, yeah. Like I'm sure somebody could calculate it, but insanely more.
And so even though I'm only 5'8", whatever tall I am, that the forces caused by the amount of mass in that small space, is going to rip my body apart, basically.
Basically, yeah, exactly. Yeah, rip it apart.
Okay.
Yeah, because of gravity.
But now let me ask you this. If you took the mass of the Earth and put it down into a single point,
yes,
is it going to have the same impact as if you take the mass of a sun and bring it back down to a certain point?
Well, no, because you have to look at, if let's say we pick a standard size that everything's going to be a baseball size. The density is going to be different between the sun and the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sun just has way more mass.
But when we talk about going to a single point, actually that's a theoretical, right? And because the idea is it's going down to something that actually doesn't have any space, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what they call the singularity in a black hole. There's basically, it's this point that's infinitely small with infinite amount of mass.
It's designed for us to calculate. It's not designed for us to really comprehend, right?
Yeah, and things get really weird, right?
So I guess my question to you, and this is where I'm getting caught up in the density versus the mass thing, is like there is a certain amount of mass that needs to be in that black hole to make it have that sheer amount of impact. So like if I were to stand on the sun, let's say I could stand on the sun, it's such a massive object that the amount of gravity would have an impact on me, a massive impact on me. And then if you were to collapse that sun's mass into a single point, then what you're basically saying is all of that energy, all of that gravity is going to impact me in a much smaller area, which means it's going to have more impact on my physical form.
Yeah. What I'm saying is how dense it is. That's the density is what you're really talking about, which is the relationship between size and mass.
So is density always the problem? Like if I go to a singularity on, and again, I'll use my cell phone. If it's the mass of my cell phone down to a singularity, so it's technically a black hole, right? Because it's just the amount of mass was only the amount of mass in my cell phone. Is that equally as dangerous to me as as the black hole out in space.
I don't know. That's probably not, because it's not going to be as dense, right? Because if you take the mass of a cell phone and compress it down to a
So
singularity versus,
there is a certain density in a singularity,
yeah,
which as it gets more and more, as more and more mass gets into there, which is
yeah,
basically changing your density, that you end up doing, I don't know, bending the laws of physics. I don't know what you want to say, more and more. And so at some point, it gets to the point where it causes destruction, damage, harm.
yeah. Because it definitely, because as you move away from something, like let's say I believe this is right. If you double the distance from an object, the gravity doesn't go in half, it goes to a quarter. It moves away as the
Mm-hmm.
square of it. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's the difference in how much gravity is pulling at your head and your feet that's the problem.
So when I'm a light year away from a black hole
Yeah,
or a sun,
yeah,
and like we said earlier, when we're working with gravity, we tend to just average the entire mass down to a point.
bound to a single point. Yeah, exactly.
When I'm a light year away, the sun and the black hole are both the same in the calculation because they're just points.
It depends on their mass, right?
Now, assuming they're identical mass,
Yeah,
right? The fact that for the sun we are simplifying it to a point in space means that basically we're turning it into a singularity where we're putting the entire mass of the sun, which
yeah.
would then dictate the amount of gravity force it has, down into a single point.
Yeah, but the difference is one is actually a single point and the other's not.
When I'm a light year away, does it matter?
I don't think so. I don't know. We need a physicist to come on. I
guess
think so.
I guess what I'm trying to say here is until you get close enough to where the fact that it is a point, it truly is a point. So again, my earlier idea, right, that as you fall towards the Earth's gravity is impacting you, but as soon as you get within the Earth, some of the mass now is on the outside of you, and so it changes the impact on you. It seems to me like until you get as you get closer and closer to the sun, at some point you're going to hit the edge of the sun. But if there is no edge of the sun and it goes down, then you can get closer and closer and closer and closer to it, but and it's still the full impact of that point.
No, it's different because it depends on how far away you are from that point, actually. Because at this point, like let's say you're falling into the sun, the gravitational force between your feet and your head are really not going to be any significant difference. So you're not going to get this ripped apart thing.
Scott, there's a sun, and then there's a black hole. Both have the same amount of mass.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm standing on the surface of the sun.
Yeah. Good luck doing that, but yeah. By the way.
Or there's a black hole, and I'm at the radial distance as the same as standing on the surface of the sun.
Yeah, I gotcha. And
so let's say it's I don't know how many millions of miles. Let's say it's 50 million miles from the center of the sun. The sun is we should probably get a real number because I have no idea. But let's say it's 50 million miles to the edge of the sun, and I'm standing there, and there's a black hole, and I'm 50 million miles from the black hole. Are the impact of the forces on me going to be any different?
I believe they'd be identical in that particular case.
So again, until you get inside the sun, which means now you're changing the impact of gravity on you, it's going to be the same. Once I'm inside the sun or inside that thing, then the effect of gravity changes on me because I'm now inside the sun. Whereas on the black hole, it's still the exact same impact on me. And as I get closer and closer, it actually is having a greater effect because the amount of force on me is still the same, but now I'm really close to it.
But the difference in the force is the part that
I can't get close. I can't even in the middle of the sun. I can't get so close to the sun that the entire gravity of the sun impacts me at one point. But I can do that in a black hole.
Yeah. Now you got other problems. I mean, you're going to die in both cases, but there are different reasons you're going to die.
Yeah, but we're not talking reality here. We're talking a whole bunch of theoretical stuff.
Yeah, just theoretical stuff. Yeah, you're going to be safer around a big object, right? Because ultimately, the force of gravity is a pretty weak force. It's not really strong. So, yeah. Anyways.
Anyway, that was enough going down that rabbit hole. What I was trying to get at though was that you said it was density, but it's the fact that the entire mass is transferring its gravitational impact on you in such a small area that you can get very close to that mass. Whereas if you're standing on the Earth, I can't get, if I'm standing on the Earth is keeping me from being impacted by all of the Earth's gravity at a very short distance. I'm still some distance away from the center of the Earth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's density. Yeah, because the Earth is not very dense compared to a black hole.
Yeah, but it's the mass. It's a huge amount of mass in a very small amount of space.
That becomes very dense. Yeah.
That is the definition of density. However, I want to emphasize huge amount of mass. It isn't just amount of mass over a small space. There's a threshold I think we're talking about here.
Yeah, and I don't know what that threshold is, but like a black hole, it compresses everything. I mean, it'll take you could take a whole star and it just makes it into basically nothing.
If I took the amount of mass on my phone and compressed it down to the size of a singularity, is that a black hole?
It would be a black hole, and it's interesting to think. I wonder would that be dangerous? Because the reality
it would be dangerous, but how dangerous, right?
I don't know.
If I grabbed it in my hand, it would probably go through my hand, or my hand would go. It could damage me, but
could it? I don't know. Actually,
how much?
That's interesting because because ultimately the only thing that pulls is the mass. The bigger the mass is how much it would pull. The difference in the pull at the distance is what I'd be concerned about, actually.
Yeah. So if my body, if the cellular structure of my body is enough to withstand the gravity of my phone, does the fact that you bring it down to the mass of my phone into a singularity, does that inherently mean that it can damage me beyond the ability of my body to resist it?
Well, the thing is, though, it's the difference in the forces. It's how much pull you'd have. So it could be. I mean, a little tiny mass could really mess you up potentially,
right? Because immediately around the mass, the gravity would be affected, right? So that's my question: is it a function of the density only, or is it a function of the mass and the density is what gives it the impact? That's what I'm getting at. So when you say density, I'm not sure it's just density. I'm wondering if there's actually some other if it's the mass. It's the amount of mass, and then the density is what gives it the impact.
Yeah, because ultimately the part that I'm talking about here is the amount that gravity is pulling on you at different distances.
Yeah.
And as long as the pull is about equal from your head to your feet, I mean, you're fine. But let's say you had this little micro black hole with like a weight of a cell phone, maybe a pound or two. That difference could really create problems. Who knows? Because, I mean, it could. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was just the idea that I had was, because I don't know the answer to that, but I'm wondering, since to me, and I could be wrong on this, but the gravitational pull of an object is based upon its mass.
Yes, correct, 100%.
Right? Not on its density, on its mass.
On its mass, right.
Right? But what you're saying is when it comes to the black hole, when you get close enough to it, then the size matters, and that's when density matters.
No, what I'm saying is the difference in the pull from your feet to your head was
when you get close enough to it,
yeah.
Again, I'm going to state the exact same thing. When you get close enough to it, then the size of it matters because it will have a different impact on the closer item from the farther item.
Yeah,
right?
and there might be some critical mass that it has to be over a certain mass before it will affect you. Because I'm thinking at the subatomic level, like could it pull certain atoms apart? And I don't think so, because the forces that hold the atoms together are way stronger than gravity. So
but let's say you're approaching a black hole and you're approaching it feet first.
Yeah.
Right, and you're still a long ways away. But at some point, and we know that as you get closer to an object, the gravity increases.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So when I'm far away, the 6 foot difference between the top and the bottom of my body, not a big thing. No, but as I get closer and closer and closer to where that 6 foot difference is 1% of my distance from the object, or
Yeah, right.
10%. Like, let's say I'm only 60 feet away from this thing. Since six
Yeah.
feet, that means from the bottom of the 6 feet to the top of the 6 feet, there's a substantial difference. I'm 90% of my distance at my feet, but 100% of my distance from at my head.
Yeah, right.
I could have a pretty big distinction in the impact of it. And as I get closer and closer, let's say I'm only 12 feet away from the black
Yeah.
hole and I'm 6 feet tall, then
Yeah.
that means my feet are 6 feet away, but my head's 12 feet away.
Yeah,
Then
right.
then obviously at that distance, the impact of the amount of gravity on my feet versus my head is going to be pretty drastically different. In
Radically
which case,
different, yeah.
is there going to be enough structural integrity in the cells of my body to stay together with that
Yeah.
force of gravity?
Yeah, yeah. Which is interesting because you got to think of that, and that's why you're going to get ripped apart. But at the same time, you're speeding up, you're approaching the speed of light, which means your mass is going up and time is slowing down for you. So what would your experience be?
Well, isn't that one of the ideas? Is like you can never actually enter a black hole. Isn't that one of the the thoughts was that, yeah, as you approach the speed of light, time slows down. So obviously you can. It's one of those. Was it oxymoron? Oxymoron? No, it's one of those ideas that paradoxes that when you hit the speed of light, time stops. Therefore, you can never hit the speed of light.
Yeah, and your mass would go to an infinite amount, which is probably impossible.
Which is why the
actually.
theory is that the amount of energy it would take to actually go to the speed of light is infinite as well.
Yeah, that's why an object will never get to the speed of light. That's why light can travel at the speed of light, because the little waves or particles that are moving
no mass.
basically have zero mass. Otherwise, it wouldn't work technically,
But it's why all the faster than light ideas of travel in science fiction usually bypass the speed of light entirely.
Well, yeah, but you got to make a good movie, man. It's like you can't don't
Well,
get hung up on physics, right? Don't mess my Star Trek
warp
up.
drive and folding space and all that kind of stuff is really about we're not even going to address the actual speed of light. We're going to avoid it entirely.
Yeah,
we'll-
yeah. Which is interesting because I was watching a show on Star Trek, way back when, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And the reason they invented the transporter was because they didn't have the budget to actually show the ship coming down to the planet. So they're like, hey, we got to figure out a cheaper way to get those guys down. Oh, we'll just make them sparkle and we'll just transport them down. So, and that kind of
Great
cool?
idea.
It came
Great
out because
idea.
of budget. It's like, we can't afford to film that, man. It's like Kirk wants all
Yeah.
the money, we can't afford anything else.
He wasn't big enough back then. When the show
I don't
first
think
came
so.
out, I think when the show first came out, the Doctor was the biggest star.
Oh,
'Cause
really?
he was a Western star.
Oh, I had no idea how
And
interesting.
McCoy was a Western star, and if you go back to some of the old black and white Westerns, you'll see him in some of those.
Oh, how cool is
He was
that?
the biggest name at the time, and
Yeah.
I don't know if he got paid more, but he was the biggest name at the time.
Oh, that's
He was also,
crazy.
I think he was also considerably older than the rest of the cast too.
Then Kirk. Yeah, there we go. Fascinating. So there we go. Hopefully we'll get some good shorts, and I'm sure both of us will be considered idiots.
We are.
But
idiots,
hey, you know
that's
what?
fine.
Come on the show. Explain it to us. I'd love to learn. Actually.
It's fine to be an idiot. Yeah. No, I really would like to understand things better. The more I understand, the more I can reason. Everything that I just asked you about and proposed to you was based upon just saying, trying to ask you questions on reason. Isn't this the way it would be? Isn't that the way it would be? And if I'm wrong, then I'll change my viewpoint.
Yeah, well, you're wrong most of the time, just so you know. So anyways,
That must mean I'm always changing my viewpoint.
that's correct, actually. Going from one version of wrong to another. Maybe that's...
I'd prefer to be wrong than always right.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, which is impossible. But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, acknowledging that you can and are wrong is actually one of the most important things anyone can do.
Well, that's the key to being right, which is interesting because most really smart people, they typically end up talking about all the things they don't know about.
That's because that's the area that gets you more knowledge, so you'll know more.
Where the dumb people are, they think they know everything, and they're too dumb to know that they're dumb, actually.
Yep. I've I think twice this week I referred to Dunning-Kruger. So
Yeah. But hey, maybe that's the best place because then you're fat, dumb, and happy, I mean, maybe that's a great way to live.
it's a great way to exist.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a great way to live.
I don't know. Could be. Depends on what you're optimizing for. Are you optimizing for happiness? I mean, who knows? Maybe that's the life.
If you want people to be able to take advantage of you and lead you around, and you want the world to go through its normal cycles without any guidance from someone with better ideas, then yeah, go ahead and do it.
Yeah, but do you want to be upset and tormented your whole life, or you just want to like go home and watch Netflix and drink a
Being
six
upset and
pack of
torment
beer?
and pain and suffering is just as much a part of life as anything else.
I guess so. Yeah, maybe
You
that's a
know, if
requirement.
I think if more people realize that life was a hardship in many cases, we'd probably end up with a more robust society.
Could be. Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
mean
there's
I don't mean go and look for all the horrible things, and I don't mean go out and create more horrible things. But what I'm saying, just to accept reality. Reality has a bunch of hard crap in it, difficult stuff in it.
yeah, and for the most part, we've sort of for the everyday person that's got a reasonable amount of money. I mean, we've tamed many of the hardships. You know.
You know, having Netflix to sit there and watch and to binge watch your stuff, if you're able to afford to Netflix and a binge watch, I think you're actually probably not doing that bad
Yeah,
in the global viewpoint.
and the
Yeah.
global things, you're in a house, right? That basically you can pretty much control to the degree the temperature. You're never hot, you're never cold. You got a stove, you can cook. You don't have to light a fire. Everything's refrigerated, frozen. You've got
You got
multiple ways to heat
entertainment.
things up.
Can you think back? I mean, go back 300 years. Who could afford being entertained?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it happened every once in a while. What happened like on a Saturday night where you'd get together and play cards and drink or whatever you do, you know?
A
Or
traveling bard or minstrel might come through town. The king might
yeah,
have a jester. They might put on a play for the local lord.
yeah,
There might even be a playhouse or a choir. I mean, church probably was a
yeah,
big place to be entertained, right?
yeah,
Choirs and other things happening.
yeah,
I mean, you think about it. On demand in the U.S., we have so much entertainment at our beck and call. So
yeah.
does
Literally,
that
with
make life
like,
better? I don't know, but it sure distracts us.
is life better? Well, that's how you'd have to define better. Certainly, or more comfortable. That's for
Mhm.
sure. I mean, because we never really have to suffer any.
Well, you look at infant mortality, you look at actual overall deaths from disease, you look at how long people's lifespans are. And
Yeah,
I know in some countries those things are going down, but in general, compared to hundreds of years ago, they're all better,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I see that just in our outside because we have outside cats and inside cats.
Hmm.
And the outside cats, they live a hard life. It's hard. I mean, they don't have protection from any kind of predator. Not that there's that many predators, but it gets cold outside. It gets hot in the summer. You know, they can get, bitten by some kind of bug, get infected. And they don't have a doctor to go to. It's sort
Where are they
of
living?
just outside on the patio. But,
I mean, they cluster around the house, or do they go? Do they have like trees, or what do they do?
I don't know. They probably go out, but a lot of times they just hang out on the patio, just like laying around or whatever like that. So,
You have a colony, a feral colony of cats.
well, and some are feral, some are not. Some let you pet them, some don't. It's like, I guess that's how Shelley wants it because if a cat comes up, now what they do is they just like, and it's amazing to think about the difference in environment through like literally probably a quarter-inch double piece of glass, like the difference on one side versus the other side. Just that tiny little space creates a real different environment.
So you're okay with lower classes and upper classes. You're okay with having different classes of species, and so yeah, those outdoor cats aren't as good as your indoor cats.
Um, I wouldn't say that they're not okay. They just, let me put it this way, the indoor cats are much more comfortable than the outdoor cats.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, you're okay with a system of classifications where there's those that have and those that don't have.
I'm okay with it. I mean, I don't know that I like it. I try to balance things like we feed them. Like Shelly just took one to the vet because it was in such bad shape. So But yeah, there's only a certain amount that are going to come in the house, right? I mean, we've already got too many in the house.
Well,
So
but you could get them all fixed, right?
yeah, which we were going to. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because then you could control the population. So.
Yeah, you have to. There's this group called Artemis that will come out and but
Oh,
you know
okay.
it's like and they charge you like a really reduced fee. But the problem is you've got to like
Corral
host them
them.
while they recover and and they've got techniques to do that because a lot of them they want nothing to do with you. They'll eat your food, but you know they hiss at you and then you know as soon as you go back in then they'll start eating it or whatever. So yeah, cats are little idiots, you know, pretty much.
Everything's an idiot. I don't care. People are idiots.
Yeah.
Dogs are friendly idiots. I don't know what to say. They're all idiots.
I know. They're just little idiots running
And
around.
that's our clip. Everyone's an idiot. Dogs are idiots.
Yeah,
Cats are idiots.
come here. Come here, Dexter. Come here. There's like a little idiot right over here, actually.
Yeah. And since you asked him to come, he's not coming over, right?
Because he's a cat. No, cats do what they want to do.
I don't. So that's my general viewpoint of cats. But I've seen people who have cats that are like so friendly.
Oh yeah,
So friendly, and they'll come when you call. And
yeah,
I mean, I remember when we were living in an apartment years ago. The neighbor had a tabby,
yeah,
and the tabby would sit in the window waiting for the owner to come home.
yeah. Some cats are very just like people. Some people are friendly. Some people not so friendly. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, Dexter, he loves attention, but only on his terms. Where Dudley, if you call him, he'll come. Like not every time, but probably 90% of the time. But
The go ahead.
but I'm saying, if you want to influence them, if you get a little treat bag, you shake the treat bag, man, they'll be there in a second. You know, they'll come
Yeah.
running
I mean, that's human nature too.
because you give
I mean,
what they want.
that's what the politicians do. Here's my little treat bag. I'm going to cut your taxes. I'm going to give you free stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
everywhere we're all just cats
We're
or
all
dogs
just
or whatever.
cats, dogs, people. We just want whatever we want.
So
Actually,
so maybe that's how we explain the left and the right. They're cats and dogs. They don't get along, but they're all influenced by the freebie treats they get.
yeah, they all love debt. They all like charging the credit card. You know, for maybe slightly different things, but they love
Well,
spending money. That's
we've
for sure.
ever since the 70s, we've convinced ourselves that credit is okay,
Yeah,
right? And we used to talk about good credit, bad credit. We don't even talk about that anymore.
yeah.
Or sorry, we should talk about good debt, bad debt. Sorry, it wasn't credit, it was debt. And yeah, who talks about good debt, bad debt anymore? I mean, when's the last time you said, oh, I mean, you'll hear like David Ramsey talk about, the only debt is okay is your mortgage, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the one big thing. So that to him, that's the only good debt, and he probably doesn't think of it as good. It's like a
No.
lesser of two evils kind
He
of a
doesn't even
viewpoint,
like
right?
that. He doesn't like that either, you know.
But the idea is like you're not going to have a 400 500K to go buy a property, so
Yeah.
you need a loan for that. I
Yeah.
get that aspect, but no one even talks about good debt, bad debt anymore.
Yeah, no.
And even the
no.
good debt, bad debt is you think about it, doesn't the Bible not want you to be in debt at all?
Not at all, because it's bonded, just like slavery.
So
basically,
so basically, the good debt, bad debt was already going down the path of accepting debt, and now we're at a point where debt is debt. Oh, why is debt okay? Because it's credit, and credit means growth, and credit means that But the problem is, what are you spending your credit on? Are you actually buying something that has value, or are you just going out and spending it on Netflix, or going out and spending it on things that don't give you the value?
Yeah. I mean, hopefully, right? I mean, in my mind, debt is probably okay if you're buying an asset that hopefully will get a positive ROI from it. I mean,
And so this is where wealthy people have understood that, or people with wealth have understood that
Yeah.
if you take out debt to buy something that will grow faster than the debt,
yeah,
then you can pay off that debt or fund the next thing, whatever
yeah,
it is.
right, yeah,
You live in a debt cycle, but you're ahead of it.
yeah, right.
The
right.
problem is when you spend that on something that doesn't give you anything back. You spend it on a vacation, you spend it on a car, you spend it on something that is not going to gain value.
Yeah,
And you can try to justify it. Oh, I'm going on vacation and then I'm going to post it on Instagram. Well, unless your Instagram's generating money, there's nothing there.
yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think the problem is it's like I want this, and I'm going to justify it in whatever way I can. And so I'm going to justify it as, well, it's a good debt. It's, it's.
Yeah, but even if it's like not as good, there's still expenditures that are better than others because at least it could have a resale value, right? At least you still have the asset after. Like,
Are you talking like something like a car?
It could be something like a car.
Because a car, as an investment, goes down in value. So as an investment, it's a poor investment.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's investment, but I'm saying if you buy like a tool or a car, because you do get utility from it, and it could help you make income, as opposed to, let's say, spending it on cocaine and hookers. It's like,
yeah, okay, so
this is better, right?
It's not the worst thing.
Yeah, right.
But what's the guy, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Kiyosaki,
yeah,
right? And one of the things that one of the things I remember most about that book is when you're making your list of assets and liabilities or whatever that in there, that your house is not your asset.
No, it's a place to live, right? That's
right.
All.
So it's an liability. It's actually a cost for you.
Yeah,
right. If at some point you're making money off of it, or you sell it and get the money out of it, then then it's actually adding value, because an asset's supposed to add to your value, right?
Yeah, right.
So conceptually, a house isn't really an asset.
Yeah.
It is a store of wealth.
Yeah, it can be. Almost always it is. Not always, but most
that's
of the time.
that's why it's been such a good store of wealth, because in general it's been a stable place to put wealth.
Yeah.
One of the things, I was talking to someone I work with, and they were talking about, the price of housing here, price of housing in America in general. Although apparently it went down for the first time in a couple years.
Oh, even in Orange County?
A little bit. Just nationwide. I don't know about.
Oh,
Orange
interesting.
County.
Yeah.
And it was talking, and like this person pays like $1,700-$1,800 a month for a room in a house.
Yeah. Wow. Holy crap.
So you can tell then if there's 4 rooms in a house, you're talking what, $7,000-$7,500 bucks?
$7,000. Yeah.
A month for that. And I'm like, okay, even if you assume that the homeowner is making money off of that, still you're talking $5-6 grand a month probably, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how can someone expect to afford that amount of money, right? Because if you're following the rule of if it's 20, it used to be 25%, then it was 30%. Now I think it's 40% of your income goes into this. I always want to be in the 25% camp, because then that means you've got more income for saving and other things, right?
Absolutely.
But that would mean for someone to afford a $5,000 a month payment, they would need to be making $20,000 a month. They need to make $250,000 a year.
Yeah, right.
And that's twice what the is it median or mean? Whatever. I think the average income in America is $85K, and then the median's where they average in the dollar amount, not the people, and that's like 120.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you take all the money in all the salaries in America and average out just the dollar amounts, it's at 120. But if you take the people and figure out where the middle is, that's I think 85K.
Yeah. Right.
And so, who's going to be able to afford that? That means that instead of if you have to pay 5 times 12, $60,000 a year. Right? Even at 40%, you're talking about 150K to be able to afford that. 40%, right? And that's above that middle number. So how are people going to be able to afford to do this? So I think where I was going with this was, I think we often blame millennials or Gen Z as, they don't want to own a home anymore. They're spending all this money on vacations and blah 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 and all these experiences. And I'm wondering how much of it is a chicken and an egg. How much of it is that they realize they're not going to be able to afford anything, so they decided to spend their money on things that they can afford, which are experiences and things like that. Or if the reason they can't afford a house is because they're spending money on experiences. I'm now of the opinion that it's not a moral failing that they can't afford to buy a house. It's that they can't afford to buy a house, so they've shifted the way they act. And it's not a moral failing at all. It's not a moral failing at all. It's a reaction to the economic environment.
Could be. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what's in a Gen Z's head. I don't know what the pressures and concerns that they have.
But
I'm not
what I'm
sure.
getting at is it's a shift in my thinking away from the pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just get it done to oh, the system really is rigged. Maybe we can't all do it the way that everyone else did.
Yeah, I mean it's you maybe can't go down a standard path, but still you got to win. So you always figure out how to win in whatever
Yeah, but
environment you're
I
in.
would argue that America in the 50s to the 80s, 50s to the 70s at least, was was better rigged for the average person to win. And
Yeah, yeah,
now
it's
now the
easier.
average
Yeah.
person can't win the same way, in which case you're going to get less people winning.
Yeah, well, we see that happening. Yeah, exactly. And it's
And
interesting because a lot of people are like barely surviving slash losing, but there's a certain population that are winning, just like massively winning. You know?
mhm. And that's a formula for a broken society,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because if the average person in America can't succeed in America,
Yeah,
then you're going to end up with a problem where the average person is on the unsuccessful side,
yeah,
and at some point the balance gets so bad that something's going to happen. I
yeah,
heard
yeah,
I heard that comedian I like make a comment saying that revolution is changing out the elites. He doesn't get
yep,
into he
yeah,
doesn't get
pretty much. Yeah,
into violence or not or any of that kind of stuff because yeah, those are the things that often happen. But he says
yeah,
basically it's just changing out the elites.
pretty much. Yeah, that is that actually comes from the Republic, written by Plato, like a couple thousand years ago. He describes this
Hmm.
whole thing because it's all human nature.
Yeah. Well, so I think the idea here is as much as we would like to be an elite, when the time comes for change, you don't want to be the elite.
You don't want to be the elite. You want to be,
We want to be the bourgeoisie.
yeah, I don't know what that term is, but I want to have enough money that I don't have to worry from a day-to-day thing, but I still have to have some sort of self-control where I can't just go get anything I want at any time, you know?
So what during the French Revolution, the the masses, the lower classes, didn't just magically revolt.
Yeah,
Someone led
right.
them,
Yeah.
and the people that led them were the educated, what the equivalent you might call a middle class, but they were the educated people that had some money.
Yeah,
And
right.
they realized the system was broken. They realized they could take control. They realized whatever they were driven by, power or just equality or whatever you want to call it, they were able to rile up the masses
Yeah, right, right.
and therefore affect change. And of course,
Yeah,
they had several horrible things that happened after the revolution, where
yeah,
they killed off their revolutionaries and the like.
yeah,
But I think the idea would be there is always a educated class
yeah,
to lead the the lower classes into battle. And
yeah.
I think right now the elites have very much been able to control the media, control the masses.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah,
as the disaffection increases, more and more people will listen to these not lesser elites, but people who are educated who can message to them directly who aren't the elites.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right? The problem is
yeah,
right now is a lot of people know that they can do this, so they're monetizing leading these groups, and they're actually causing more distress in doing so. A lot of your fringe YouTubers and the like. But I think the path just gets worse and worse until eventually people just say no. Yeah, yeah. We even if people die, even if things get hurt, even if we break things, the whole idea of burn it all down is because it's so bad that even if I burn it all down, it's not going to get that much worse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, you know, I don't own it anyway, so I'm burning the man stuff down,
I
you
don't
know?
own it anyway. We'll have to rebuild it, and when we rebuild it, I'll get part of it.
Yeah,
Well, I'll be involved in the rebuilding. I mean, that is really where the reapportion of wealth comes from, right?
yeah,
We burn it all down, so we destroy 50% of the wealth of the country, but as we build it back up, everyone's involved.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and that's basically what the Republic says. Everything's a cycle, you know. It
Hmm.
cycles around. So basically what happens is it's really good for a while. You elect good leaders and they really help people, but eventually they start thinking they're better and having more power, and which is what's happening right now in Congress actually.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
some people are like just sick of this, and then There's like threats of physical violence, right? I mean, we've seen that actually. We're seeing.
Oh yeah. No,
geez,
we've actually seen real physical violence.
People taking shots at presidents, right? Congressmen, actually.
Killing congressmen and killing what political speakers.
Yeah, killing them. And then eventually what happens, kind of the system breaks, and then everybody says, oh, you're a good leader, so you go ahead, and then it's great for a while, and it just sort of cycles, around.
Yeah, but the whole, was it good men, good times, bad, weak men, bad times. That whole thing, is it really weak men or is it bad men?
Well, it's a combination.
Because we're always going to have bad people. We're always going to have bad people.
Yeah, there's always bad people.
So in a time when you're building something, right? So you get the strong leaders come out, they build something good.
Yeah.
The good time leads to everyone becoming. We use the term weak, but no longer having the principles that made them strong.
Yeah, right. Come here.
And that's when the bad players can come in and pretend to be the strong.
Yeah, right.
And then they create the bad times because they don't give a damn.
They don't give a damn. Yeah. Yeah, and it's like authoritarian leaders,
So I don't think it's weak men. I think it's weak times make bad men, or weak times bring out the bad.
Well, yeah, bring out bad, but it's a combination of weakness as well too. Ability, and when I say weak, I mean the ability to not control yourself.
But you're talking for the masses.
For the masses, yeah.
Yes. So, because the whole thing with strongmen, that whole strongman cycle is the idea that you get strong leaders. But why is a strong leader effective? Because they empower people. They make people believe. They make people move towards a common goal. And then you build a strong structure, a strong time. And the strong time means that the people no longer have to be as strong as they were to make it.
Yeah, right.
The strong leader is not as required in a strong time. You think about the U.S. after World War II, when we built all of our institutions that we trusted, when we built the government that we have, when we built the military that we had. We didn't have to be as strong. Our people didn't have to have the same moral character they had to build America into what it was. Right. And so then we could concentrate on the things that we didn't do very well, like putting the Japanese into concentration camps or Jim Crow laws or whatever it is. We can start saying, oh no, we got some problems too. We can still work on these. And then we began to concentrate on those things. And then as we began to concentrate and we said, hey, look, we're making things better. At some point, everyone starts to fracture and we're no longer aligned because we don't have the strong leaders anymore. So we all think that our thing is the thing that needs to get done. You want your thing, I want my thing. So we kind of begin to put structural fractures in what we've built. So you get your thing and I get my thing. And over the course of decades of that, suddenly the structure is not as strong as it was because I had to fracture it to get my thing. You had to fracture it a little more to get your thing. And so now we've got a fractured system, which is beginning weak. We've all gotten weak to allow this to happen because that we started to specialize in the things we wanted. And now we're in a situation where we've got weak structures. And then we get people who realize that they can take advantage of those weak structures. So they take advantage of it, and it fractures further and further and further until finally the world is bad, or the situation is bad. And then someone comes up with an idea and says, "Hey, I can fix this. Follow me." And when we get a good person doing that, people follow them, and they start to rebuild again.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I think the term makes that cycle makes sense, but it's an oversimplification of kind of understanding what that means. You don't. The strong leader is the critical factor. But why does the strong leader work? Because they bring people together and they lead them towards a common goal.
Yeah, that's called leadership. Yeah, exactly. It's like taking all this power and focusing it.
A dictator can do that as much as a capitalist leader or any group.
Dictators are very effective, right?
It has nothing to do with your form of government or your form of economy or any of that stuff. It has to do with the person being able to have a vision and to connect with people.
Yeah, but I mean, what the founders did is they understood human nature really well. So what they tried to do is put a system in place where at least we have some checks and balances. So the power is not going to get completely out of control, right?
I was listening to one of these YouTube videos. It's one of these people who kind of does deep dives in a topic, and he was going into the U.S. between the Revolutionary War and the Constitution.
Yeah.
Because there was a period of like 10, 12 years or something like that, right? Where we existed. 1776, 1787, I think. So it's what, 11 years, 10 years that we existed not as the United States of America, in essence, right? We were basically 13 separate countries,
Yeah, right.
in essence, for that time frame.
Or colonies,
And he goes,
they call them, yeah.
yeah, well, colonies are subject to British rule, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's much more like city states, almost like kind of the
Yeah.
right. But he was going into the idea that we often talk about the fourth branch of the government, and we talk about the bureaucracy or the like. And
Yeah.
he actually said, no, there is a fourth branch of government. It's the states.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And because you think about it, the states have rights written into the Constitution.
Yeah, right.
The existence of the Senate is a states' rights issue. It's not, so he did a really good job breaking down how, these parts of the Constitution. And then he kind of showed like how much of the Constitution is spent on each branch of government. So he has like the executive branch has a huge part of the Constitution is really dictates how the executive branch works.
Yeah.
And then about half of that goes into how the legislative branch works, and then about half of that goes into how the judging works, right? The
judicial branch, yeah.
Judicial branch works, and then an even smaller amount goes into like the states. But it was really like this is why the Constitution is written really to control the king, to control the president.
Yeah. So,
that is the number one thing that they were worried about was a king.
Yeah, that's what they fought against. That was their number one problem, right?
Yeah, it's just why whenever I hear someone who's arguing on the right saying, "Oh yeah, the left is dumb. They've got these no kings protests and all," and he goes, "Oh, they're idiots. He's not saying he's a king. He's not a king." I'm like, dude, if you don't understand hyperbole, if you don't understand, using terminology for meanings beyond what it is, then you're being so disingenuous, right?
Yeah.
If you were to come and saying, hey, you know what, I get the point, but actually these things that he's doing aren't trying to be king, that would be a conversation I could listen to. But when someone just says, oh, no, you're wrong, it's a definitional problem. They're getting into the semantics again. It's like, no. You know what they mean when they say no kings. You know exactly what they mean.
Yeah.
So for you to pretend like that you don't understand it, that's disingenuous. And people do this all the time. They pick on your word saying, oh, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, dude, you know what I mean.
Well, and we're okay with a king for a while, as long as...
Are we?
Yes, as long as with one big caveat is I agree with what the king's doing, then I'm for a king. Right?
Then you probably don't even think of him as a king. Oh no, that's just my guy. That's
he's my guy. He's like my son. Right? And that's the Trump thing. It's like people were so frustrated with the politics. It's like, hey, let's bring in some combination of a wrecking ball and a chainsaw, right? To just try to drain the swamp.
Let's burn it all down. No.
It's some version of that, yeah.
So Trump is the right's version of the protests during Black Lives Matter, I guess.
Yeah,
right.
It's
like Portland was like it was Portland that was doing the burning. Whatever cities were like, let's burn it all down. Let's defund the police. That defund the police is a burn it all down mentality.
Yeah.
And I think that Trump was very much Congress sucks. The politicians suck. Let's burn it all down.
Yeah, because but he was a little more nuanced than that. Because he's like, hey, let's make America great again, like it used to be. Because these group of selfish people over here just need to be burned down. Everybody's like, yeah, let's do it, And maybe it is better. Who knows? I mean, but you don't want to. The problem is like
maybe it is better. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Like, are we in a better place? Like, what place would be in if Kamala Harris won? What would the environment be? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if you could predict that or not.
Okay, so if you're saying it's the lesser of two evils, is what you're saying? Is that?
Well, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't think I'm even saying that. I'm saying it would be great to roll back and then role play 4 years later what would happen with Kamala versus what would happen with Trump.
Now that is a good use of AI.
Yeah, if AI could do that, I don't know how well it would do.
If you could say, all right, here, given given the last year
Yeah.
and all of the events that occurred internationally, all of the weather things that you give it a whole list of things
Yeah,
to
right.
consider. Here, make a list of all the weather events around the world that had an impact on the economy and politics, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Make it a list of all the military activity. Make a list of all the political, economic. Well, you can do that, right? Have it create a list of all these events around the world and say, given this information, and let's have two different timelines here. What would happen? You have what happened in America based upon what Trump did.
Yeah.
What would have happened if Harris had been in charge?
Yeah, right.
And then have it theorized, and then you could correct it along the way. But that would be an interesting exercise to see. Saying, obviously tariffs wouldn't have happened. So what would have happened without tariffs?
Yeah. I mean, you run a simulation, like it's prediction. It's like where
and it doesn't.
predict?
The point being, it doesn't need to be. You don't even need to be 90% accurate. You just need to be directionally accurate so that people can understand.
Yeah, and that's what people do in their head. They're like, okay, what if Kamala? It's like, okay, then.
Well, that's what they do in their head, but
Yeah.
the problem is there's a lot of variables that people just can't keep.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's, but what about what they did with the border? Oh no, but what about what they did with this? Or but what about happened here? What about making Canada the 51st state? What about all those types of things?
Yeah. Because Trump's bombastic. He's just like makes these radical claims and just craziness, right? And that's just Trump. But I think people just wanted that because they were so sick of the status quo. They're like, you know what? It's like, let's just put the wrecking ball in.
I still don't think. And so I think the Democrats are doing relatively well right now because the economy is hurting. And it's all about the economy, right? If you don't feel fine financially, everything else is kind of secondary at that point.
Yeah, it depends on what part of the economy. I mean, the market, I'm doing awesome, in the market.
Scott, you're not in the 70% of the people who just can't afford things.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I'm certainly probably
so. No. You are not the average American.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like an average American.
I know you feel like it, and that's one of the things that happens with a lot of people who, especially as you get older and you're able to build up wealth.
Yeah.
You still feel like an average American, but you are no longer the average American.
I suppose so. Yeah.
You're probably in the top 10% at least.
Yeah, I guess so.
So when it comes down to it, I think that's one of the things. So, and this is what I think happened to all the politicians. And for a long time, the Democrats were able to pretend like they still were of the people.
Yeah.
So labor and all the different ethnic groups and all that kind of stuff. Right? They were able to be that. And then as those politicians, as what happened in politics is whoever's in office makes more money because they're just better connected.
Yeah.
They know more, they have more information. They're able to do insider trading, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're just in a better situation, right? Yeah. Someone who is in a situation where they're surrounded by successful people with money has a higher chance of being successful than someone who isn't.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is people go in as maybe a millionaire and they come out 4 years, 8 years later as multimillionaires.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
They grow their wealth so much faster than if they didn't.
Yeah.
And so and they still think they're the same person who got elected, but they're not.
Yeah.
And we're all beginning to see that because we see how they change.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that they've changed.
Right. Yeah.
And so he tapped into that disaffection of politicians. And I think, again, the Democrats were able to ride the fact for so many years they were of the people. And I think that broke down in 2016 when he was first elected.
Yeah.
And that's continued to be broken. And right now, the only reason why they get any kind of results is because people are more pissed off than him. I think the reason he lost to Biden was that they were more pissed off with him than they wanted Biden.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so what's going to end up happening is until the politicians, and for the Democrats' sake, the Democrats can really reconnect and show that, we're millionaires, but we're still part of you. I mean, that's going to be a tough argument. The fact that a billionaire can do that says a lot about Trump.
Yeah, because he speaks like he understands.
He seems authentic when he says something. Even when he's bombastic and he's saying the stupidest things, as far as I'm concerned, he still seems he thinks that.
Yeah, thinks it which maybe he cares about the little guy, and the little that goes recognized actually. Like JD Vance is such an interesting dude, right? Because he's no doubt very smart, very witty, very quick to speak, but he grew up poor, right? So he still has an understanding of like, look, I understand what it's like not to be able to eat as much as you want. I understand the fact that, you got to make choices. Do we pay the electric bill or do we go to the doctor? I mean, where if you have once you reach a certain threshold, you don't have to make those decisions anymore.
You really think he thinks that way? I don't.
I think he remembers it, and I think he can connect with people. Yeah.
I think you remember things in a certain light.
Yeah.
And you think you know these things, but in actuality, you're not connected to that anymore. The things that person who's still poor or whatever are thinking about, you haven't thought about in so many years. You're really not understanding anymore.
Yeah.
And I look at the fact, like, even when he's talking about immigrants, right? His wife,
Yeah.
yeah, ethnically Indian background, right? And his kids are mixed breed, just like mine is. And I think, but yet he'll still make comments that align more along the, this is the bad way of saying it, the racial purity of America, because that's not really, I don't think he's coming across that way specifically. But I mean, the fact that he's backing certain things that a lot of people would say, hey, but that's totally anti-immigrant. That's totally anti,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that to me, that is an interesting thing.
Well, it's
right there.
interesting, but I'd rather have somebody who hasn't had it super easy as a leader, because at least they have a better chance of making something in the poor person's favor. It's like interesting. Like I've been listening to Tucker Carlson a lot lately.
Uh-oh.
He's an interesting dude, right? Because the part that I like about him is he'll admit, it's like, dude, I hang out with all these elites. It's like, I'm pretty much an elite. It's like, I've never
He's
really...
an elite. He's an elite.
That's what he says. He's an elite. I've never had... I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, right? So...
Well, wait.
But it's cool when he admits that.
Pull back for a second.
Yeah.
You have to be born rich to be an elite?
No, you don't have to be born, but there's a difference between somebody who's self-made versus somebody who has never really had to struggle.
So I want to get to the definition of the word elite. How are you using the word elite?
Oh gosh, I don't know, Chris. I'm very general, like usually. Typically
so
people.
I would consider Musk an elite, even though he doesn't come from.
Yeah, he's an elite now, but he still remembers his roots, though. Actually, he's had to work to get there.
So then, how are you criticizing the word elite then?
I'm not so much criticizing it. I'm just saying that he understands, so he can make policies. Like, he gets the fact that there's families that are hungry, and to do
so
the
what
right
you
thing,
want, you really want is a diversity of background to be able to understand the average working person.
Yeah, I think you want to have somebody to have the experience. Yeah, exactly.
So you want DEI, you want diversity.
I don't want diversity. What I want is somebody that really understands what the problem is.
See, but they don't. That's the thing. Once they become an elite, I don't think they do. I think they have a diversity of thought that allows them to be better positioned to argue for those people. But you no longer understand it. If you're not living it, you don't understand it.
Well,
this goes back. This goes back to kind of tangentially to what you say about until you do it with your hands, you don't know it. If you're no longer living that life, you no longer really understand it.
See, I disagree.
You can sympathize with it. You can argue for it. You can do whatever you want, but you're not living it anymore. You're not really there anymore.
See, I think you're making a lot of assumptions, and I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. Actually, I happen to know many people who are very wealthy that were broke. And the number one thing that drives them, Chris, in almost every single case, if you really dig in, is the fact that they could go back there. They're driven more by fear than anything else. Because they're like, I know right now I'm eating well. I know right now I got a great house. I know this. But there's just one event and I could be poor again. So I've got to work my ass off to make sure that I never get back to that spot. So they're more driven by fear than anything else. And so they remember it and they feel it like every day. They're like, I can't take the day off. I got to work. And that's a common thing, a common theme among most people that I talk to. So I don't
They're not
think
politicians.
no, they're not politicians. No, they're not politicians.
Again, I think what ends up happening is a politician comes in and they might be hungry when they come in. They might really want to make change. They may want to make things better for the people they represent.
Yeah.
But what happens is they get engulfed in that culture, and they end up getting wealthy, and they begin to think like people who get wealthy in that culture.
Oh, 100%.
And even if they can still sympathize with what they came in with, part of politics is to make compromise. In fact, the whole thing of politics is compromise. And so it's just like you can compromise to get something you want for your constituents. You can compromise on just about anything, including your morals and your beliefs and your principles. And so I think what ends up happening is it's like, oh, it would be nice if we could do this for the people. But you know what? That's going to be tough, or that's going to be rough, or I'm going to have to lose some political capital to do that. I think what ends up happening is, this is why I think term limits are something we should definitely have, because, okay, you've been in for X or 2 terms, 3 terms, whatever it is, and you're out. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So I'm not going to argue against that point because I think you're absolutely right, but it's a matter of scale. It's like how much, and it's like, and that depends on the selfishness of the person, because just the inherent selfishness and how much do they believe in God is another super important thing, because I know many people, they're like, listen, I know I'm well off, but I better do the right thing for these people because this is what God tells me to do. And ultimately, I'm going to be judged by how well I lead, actually. And so there's definitely a fear there that I've got to do the right thing. And which is different than your standard elitist who says that, look, I'm the God and I run the show completely. I mean, there's a different mindset there if you truly believe.
Can't someone believe in God and be bad?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah, that's the definition. Yeah, we're all sinners.
Can't someone believe that they're morally superior and use the fact that they believe in God as the excuse?
Yes, of course, all that. But I'm talking about the people who truly believe that I am put here by God to serve people, and that I will be judged if I don't do the right thing. So
I don't think that's the majority. I don't really think that's the majority of people.
I don't know that it's the majority of people, but I want that as a leader. Actually, I want that leader to know that he's serving under somebody else, that he's accountable.
I'm perfectly saying, yeah, he's serving under the people who he represents or she represents.
Yeah, but more than that, serving under God.
Your boss. I'm sorry. No. You want to have a spiritual boss? That's fine. No, you have a secular boss too, and your secular boss is the people that voted for you.
Yeah. No, 100%. I understand all that, but what I'm saying though is the underlying driving force for many of these people is that I'm going to be held accountable by my Creator, so I must do the right thing. And that is, at least here in the leaders that I talk to, that's a deep part of their decision making. Like our local congressman here in our local district that I personally have talked to. I mean, that's a deep part of it. And I don't know if you get that to the same way in California or not, but
I don't. So I don't think that religion has to be part of a leader's role. So
listen, I'm not saying it has to be. I'm saying
but you're arguing for it. You're saying you want your leaders to be that way.
Yeah, because I want to know that they're going to be held accountable at some level. And there's a lot of them that think that way. Many.
I want them to be accountable because they know that that's right in and of themselves. Not because not because someone they're fearful of an overlord at some point in the future who could punish them. I want them to do it because it is in fact the right thing.
Well, I want them to do that too, but I'm telling you, is that fear is a driving thing. Just like the group of wealthy people
but
that I
if you're
talked
going to
about.
make a wish list, my wish list is they do the right thing because it's the right thing, not
Well,
because
yeah,
it's
I'm
from a
not,
religious
I'm not
aspect.
saying a wish list. I'm talking about observable evidence of things that I've seen because I've talked to people actually.
Yeah, I just find that right now, when it comes to a politician, um, I don't believe the majority of them come from a servant mentality. I think
Yeah.
there was a point, particularly after the wars, when you end up with a lot of people who were in the military, and were indoctrinated into this viewpoint that you were fighting for something bigger.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Right, right,
That
right.
I think you ended up with a lot of people in politics who probably had that mentality of like, I'm here to serve the country. I'm here to
Yeah.
make things better.
Yeah.
And there was they were able to have different levels. Like I serve my constituents, but I also serve the country as a whole. I serve my
Yes.
state, but I also serve the federal government. And
Yes.
so they were able to walk the line between all those things. And
Yeah.
I don't feel the average person today believes that. And that's,
No.
I say the average politician today comes from that. And that's why I think so many of them are making as much money as they do and don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you, but I'm telling you, it depends on their belief in God. That is a fundamental factor. Absolutely critical.
Again, you are then making assumptions on what you mean by their fundamental belief in God.
Yeah, but I just stated, or I'll state it again, the fact that, look, I've got to do the right thing because I'm put in place by God-given power, and if I do the wrong thing, I'm going to be held accountable for it. And I know that there's many people, many politicians, leaders who 100% like think that way. Most don't. I get it. Gavin Newsom does not think like that. 100%.
Of course not. I don't believe Trump thinks that way.
Maybe I don't know how much he thinks, but I know the people that I've talked to personally think that way. Politicians, like congressmen, senators in my state, I've physically, personally talked to them. And they believe that I am put here by God and I'm in a servant role and I won't always be here. But right now I've got to do the best of my ability to serve people. That's it. And they'll openly admit that, when they go to Washington, D.C., I mean, they'll talk about it, that it's like a cesspool, that literally they can sense this like spiritual evilness in Washington, D.C.
Huh?
Yeah. This is a whole area, Chris. I think you need to. I know. Either you get this or you don't. One of the two. Either you kind of see it or you don't. But there's a lot of spiritual forces that are at play, not just
either you
human.
believe this or you live in reality. Yes. No. So I believe that bureaucratic institutions can go off the rails all over the place. In fact, I think they always do.
Yeah.
I think part of a healthy bureaucracy is you have to cull the bureaucracy. You have to trim it down. You have
all
to
that.
Yeah. Just we've used the gardener principle where you prune the tree to get it to grow strong. Another one, you exercise to get rid of the fat. You exercise to you fast in order to get your body to be better at operating, right?
Of course,
so
yes.
we need the government to go on a fast, we need to go on a diet, and we also need it to be pruned. We need so yes, so to call it an evil cesspool to me is like, okay, you're now attributing motive to an entity that is not a person.
Yes, correct.
And that is something I don't believe.
I know.
I believe the entity can have outcomes that you would say, oh, those are horrible outcomes. Yes. I definitely believe that. But to attribute human behavioral characteristics to an organization that is not a human, to something that isn't a human.
Yeah, to me, spiritual forces, that's called.
You are anthropomorphizing the government.
No,
and that to me, oh yeah, you're anthropomorphizing the government.
No. I'm just saying that there's more than just what you see on the surface level. There's other forces that are involved. And I know I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just making a statement that I believe this. And I don't really want to argue it. I'm
Okay.
not trying to prove it. I just think that, and I think you're seeing it more and more come out. It's interesting. That's just my observation. And I know you don't see it or you don't believe it.
I think the government needs to be trimmed. I think that the whatever that act was, the Pendleton Act or whatever that created the civil service was a great thing at the time. But I think now that we've had 100 and some odd years of 125, 150 years of government growth,
Yeah.
we should probably look and see maybe the government doesn't need to be as big as it is. Maybe it doesn't need to control and do everything it does. I understand the world's gotten more complex. I understand
Of
there's more
course.
things to regulate, blah, blah, blah. But, everything's about regulation and deregulation at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the more we regulate something, the better control we have of it. But at some point, the control becomes limiting. It becomes hampers it.
Yes.
And
I
I think
understand all
that's
that. Yeah.
I, I
Yeah.
think that's something that in the past that would have been the role of the Republicans and the Democrats, right? Big
Yeah.
government, small government, and it was back and forth. Somewhere after Reagan, the Republicans became big government too. So now it's like big government, big government. Different ideas on what the government does, but still
Yeah.
big government and big government.
Yeah.
And so suddenly we lost the idea of controlling the size of our government.
Yeah.
The Republicans
Yeah,
used to be the party of small government. They're not.
well, that's the whole idea of you don't spend more than you get in, but now we know nobody wants to do that actually. But I want to go back to this one point because I believe that leaders who go to church, who are followers of Christ, they have a different belief that they've got to lead differently, actually, because they're going to be held accountable from a higher source, actually. And whether that's not true, whether it's actually true or not, I know I never get you to agree if it's true, but it's like it does impact their behavior.
I'm not going to disagree that it impacts their behavior. I'm going to I'm going to further repeat something and refine this is like you're talking about a subset of people who believe in God.
Yes. And that subset's getting smaller. It used to be like more people went to church, like 80-90% of Americans would go to church. Now it's like less than 50%. So that is changing.
I think it's still 60% in the US, but at one point it was 80 some odd percent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like way back when, it's just like that was just what you did, right? And like if you go down the Jordan Peterson route of things, the church instilled a certain right and wrongness about it. You just do certain things because they're right, not because you're going to personally get ahead. And that's changing.
But
and we're losing that.
Doesn't the original idea and let's not talk the religious part of this quite yet. Doesn't the original idea of America imply that there is a right and wrong, right? Just the fact that we've got the Bill of Rights kind of implies that there is a right and a wrong when it comes to freedom of expression, when it comes to the ability for people to believe what they want. There seems to be a value structure in our Bill of Rights, and however it's tied to religion, I'm not going to go there quite yet. It seems to me like it doesn't religion is one source of that. I think the founding principles of our country are another source of that. Yeah. I think the source of values and principles can come from multiple frameworks.
Always, but all the founders, I mean, maybe not every single one of them, but the vast bulk of them believed in God and believed that these rights are God-given, inalienable rights, and that government is not going to impose upon God-given rights. And that is like that concept is baked into the Constitution.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is the overarching premise, that these are God-given rights, that there is a God, and that you're going to be held accountable, so we better do things properly.
I don't know that I agree with that second part.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So if you want to call them God-given rights because God created because the deists would have believed that God created the world.
Yes.
And that it's our job to live in the world as best as possible.
Yes.
And that would include things like giving people freedom, letting,
Yes.
helping each other, building a good society. It would include all the things that you would associate. But I don't necessarily think that, that they were worried about judgment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I'm not sure a deist worries about judgment the same way as a theist does.
Well, I'm talking about Christians, particularly
No,
that believe
deists can
about.
be Christians. I mean, you look at Madison, you look at no Madison, what's his name? Jefferson to an extent. A lot of these people were deists.
Yeah. Well, let's
And
do this.
they believed we had a responsibility because God created the universe, and we had a responsibility to act in a certain way. But
Yeah.
that's I don't know that judgment was the ultimate role for all these people.
You mean their fear?
Yeah, the fear of judgment is why we act good. Some of these people, I think, were altruistic enough to believe that this is the best way to build a society that's good for all.
Well, there's no doubt that was in. Hopefully, that's the driving force. But I'm telling you, there's definitely like fear there as well too. And I think maybe that's not talked about as much. But I'm going to go down that road. But I need to do some research. Maybe next time we can talk more about that. But I'm thinking that that influences more than you may think. Is my hunch. That's my premise.
I just see human nature so often twisting what they want to twist
Oh, all the time. Yeah,
to
that's
fit
the
what they to
essence.
fit what they feel in the moment.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. That happens
That
all the time.
I think the people that have the moral structure or framework or the principled thinking in their framework to have the belief that you're saying is such a rare thing,
Yeah, I know.
right?
I know, but those are the
And
leaders we need though. That's what we want.
yes, I'll give you that. I think though that I don't value I think the religious aspect has a value to it,
Yeah.
but there are other things that I would value equally in that person besides the religious aspect.
Yeah, sure. Equally. Yeah. But I think the core
Or maybe
is
there's some assumptions that I think need to go into that, like they believe that every individual is valuable in and of themselves.
yeah.
Because because you
Because
could have
everybody's
someone
created
who
by God, right? It's
so,
like
so
at a higher source.
yeah, but everyone was created by God, but we had slavery. Everyone was created by God, but we've gone to war. Everyone was
Yeah.
created by God. So just saying that in and of itself, it does not mean there's a fundamental belief that we all have equal value,
Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
right? So I think you got some assumptions in there about how this politician will treat everyone because of their belief in the inherent value of everyone, and that's where I think we have that's where I think there are other aspects of a person's background that make that
Oh,
possible to
there's
them.
no doubt there's other aspects actually. Yeah, there's other aspects. But I'm just saying there's just more to the equation, and I've derived this just by talking to some of our leaders here, and they speak differently than I haven't really talked to many people in California other than Mike Bunzing, right? He was the whatever mayor of Aliso Viejo at some point. I don't know if you know him or not,
No.
but yeah, he was a sort of a different kind of dude. But I think we should bring this up more and more because I think we should look at what are identity, like what are the deepest drivers of human behavior. I think that would be a really good topic to dig into deeply.
The impact of religion on human behavior?
Not no. I want to go deeper there, like core identity as the driver of human behavior. So, like
Give me
one
an example.
identity is
Give me an example. Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
okay, so one identity, right, would be that I was created by God. I'm a servant of God. I'm a slave to God to do his will. That is my identity and that is my purpose actually. So every decision is filtered through that. That doesn't mean that if you have that identity, you're not going to be horribly wrong. You're not going to be sin. You're going to be horrible. Yes, you're going to do those things, but that identity is driving something differently than somebody else says, I'm God. I invent reality and I am at the top of the food chain. Those
So
people are going to behave differently.
I'm not opposed to going down this path. What are you hoping to get out of it?
Just a more understanding.
Um,
Because I want the leader that's going to lead me to know
You
that
want a certain outcome? You wanna look for a certain outcome and then kind of work backward to figure out what kind of leader makes that outcome?
well, I think if the leader's accountable to someone more than himself, he'll be a better leader. He'll be a little bit nicer to the people that he's leading, actually.
Okay.
And so that's my overall premise. And so that's why I
That
think I
that
want
that,
to.
that that that's your premise. What
Yeah.
what are you hoping the outcome is from that premise?
Well, those are the people that I would vote for. Those are the people that I want to choose to lead me because I believe that they feel like they're being led by somebody else.
You vote for them because you feel that they're being led by someone else, or you vote for them because if they feel they're being led by someone else, they will have better outcomes.
Yeah,
Are you
they'll
are
have
you
better
are you voting on
outcomes.
the outcomes, or are you voting on some aspect of the person?
I'm ultimately voting on the outcome, but I
Okay,
believe the
so
outcome will always be better if they have this connection,
so if
right?
I can construct an identity that doesn't involve God or religion at all, that has the same outcome, would you vote for that?
If it has the same outcome, I don't believe you can do that, but yeah, if you could, yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
going to bring in several billion people in the world that don't have religion as part of
Okay.
their thing, right? And they have governments,
Okay.
right? And
Yeah.
they have outcomes. So I
Yeah.
mean, again, I think again we're looking at it from a very American centric viewpoint here. I don't believe that. I believe the most important thing we ever did was to make the statement separation of church and state.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. That and basically what they're saying is not that we don't believe in God as a country, but you can choose to believe and worship in any way you want, and you're not going to
Yep,
be told how to think, right?
you're not going to impose any of that through the state.
Yes, right, exactly. But the system is structured around belief in God. But how you choose to worship or not worship is up to you. That's free will that God has given you as a gift from God. You can do anything you want to do. And there's no way a government's going to change
I am not,
how
and that
God
a
wants
gift
to
from God.
start.
That's humans' interpretation at the founding of this country that we need to give people the right to view religion in any way they want to.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Science is
No,
a
that's
religion. Science doesn't have a God. It's a religion. You can
yeah,
follow that.
yeah, because that's a God-given right. That's why they put that in there. But build an argument if you think that's not correct. Let's build arguments next
No,
time.
you need to defend it. You're making the statement. You have to defend it. I don't have to defend your argument. I don't have
Yeah.
to attack your argument. You're making the argument. You defend it.
Well, okay, then I'll defend it next week actually, because I'm
Okay.
got to go right now. But let's
Yeah.
wrap
Oh,
up
the other
here.
thing I want to talk about, we'll talk about next week. I'm thinking about changing up my AI stack. I was watching this guy on YouTube, and he was explaining. He was basically saying, "Chat GPT's dead. Go buy Gemini."
Yeah, I've been
Which
using Gemini a
you
lot
and
more than ChatGPT.
you've already been doing that a lot. So yeah, this guy uses he uses the expensive Claude, and then he uses the cheap Gemini, and then he uses like a bunch of other things like N8N and other things too. But he uses
Okay.
11. You have an 11 Labs account, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he does a lot of that stuff. But it was really interesting to listen to him and go on about it. And he's basically saying, the free chat's just fine for unless you're going to use it a lot, and he doesn't. So his big thing is Gemini and Claude. Claude for code, Gemini for everything else.
Yeah, but there's something cool about Grok. Grok's an interesting thing too, as well too.
Yeah,
I
he
wouldn't
kind of
discount
downplayed Grok a lot. I think Grok is more of a it feels neat.
But it gives really good answers as well too, especially if you're running the Grok 4.1 as a model, not voice, but just running it on as typing in. It's a good model. It gives really good answers.
Yeah, I've been using Gemini a lot more as my secondary to Claude.
Yeah,
And then he showed the MCP server for N8N,
yeah,
and it does so much stuff that you don't you do it all through Claude now. All
That's so
your
cool.
N8N stuff through Claude.
That's so cool. Yeah, I need to
Yeah,
get,
no, so
next year I'm going to get back to that. So
so I want to no, it got me excited about N8N again, so I want to go back into N8N and start playing with it. So
cool. All right. Okay. That's it. So let's talk about God, leadership, human behavior next week.
leadership, human behavior, you'll talk about God, and
Okay.
I will talk about I'll talk about the other side of that. I'll talk about the 70% of the world that is not Christian,
Okay,
or
good.
80% of the world. Is it 90? I forgot what the number. 85% of the world that's not Christian.
Yeah, right.
I think 1.1 billion Christians in the world, so out of 8 billion, whatever that is.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Cool.
All right, Chris. We'll
Talk to you next week. So
Okay.
everyone, comment, tell us how we're wrong. Tell us we're all vile, evil people, or that we're righteous, or whatever you want to say. I don't know.
Whatever.
Yeah. Just make sure to tell us why, so we understand
tell
your
us
reason.
why. Yeah, and if you're good, come on the show.
Telling me I'm an idiot and I'm wrong is just noise. Telling me how I'm an idiot and I'm wrong, that's important.
Oh no, that's beautiful. That's a really good thing. And even if you could tell me how to get better, that's even better.
Yeah, that would be best, right? Because
that's the best gift ever. Is you're an idiot. This is why you're an idiot. Now, this is how you can be less of an idiot. I'm like, thank you.
And you don't need to use the word idiot, but hey, if you want to.
You've just given me a gift. Yeah, exactly. All right.
All right. Thank you all.
See you. Bye.
And all right.